Native American history is American history. Not a sideshow, not a subgenre, but to understand what this country means, where it's been, where it's going, you have to know something about Native American life. Even now, I might be the only Native American person in trade publishing in the United States, which is something I want to change, and I want that to change sooner than later. I got into writing on a bet. I was in college, and there was a guy in my hallway who was very proud of the fact that he was taking creative writing courses, and he bet that I couldn't, and so I wrote a story to gain entry into a creative writing class, and fell in love with writing. Knew I wanted to devote my life to it. Editing came in my life much later. I mean, I've been a professor of creative writing for a long time. I have edited my students' work for a very long time and edited my own, frankly. I really believe that good writing lives or dies in edits. That's where the magic happens. I'd followed Ojibwe journalist Annette Pember's work in various newspapers and magazines for years, if not decades. When I became an editor at Pantheon, Mary was one of the first people I went after. Medicine River is the author's quest to understand her mother's experience as a Native person in a residential Indian boarding school. And through that story, Mary tells the larger story of Indian education in this country, residential boarding schools as a historical process of acculturation, the damages done to families and tribes. She's really telling a story of this country and how it interacts with, treats, and nourishes or not its most vulnerable citizens. I am deeply committed to Medicine River, to that book, because my own grandmother was sent to residential Indian boarding school. Those schools created so many ruptures and rifts and difficulties and traumas that are not only hard to talk about, but hard to understand. So I grew up not really knowing how to understand my own grandmother, or even maybe my own mother. The legacy of boarding schools runs that deep. I knew that there was no book out there that really told the story of residential Indian boarding schools from a personal place that was both intimate and broadly historical and deeply political, with an eye toward healing Native communities in the present day. Small Ceremonies follows a group of mostly high school students and the older relatives who try their best to take care of them in Winnipeg's North End, which is very much the Native neighborhood in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And it follows mostly this group of kids as their hockey team is threatened with dissolution. They're being kicked out of the league in which they play. And these kids are trying to make sense of their lives and trying to find some future toward which they can aim themselves as they struggle through the last bit of high school. There's a lot of pain in the book, but also a lot of humor, and some of the most intricately drawn characters that I've ever read. It's a very specific book, but in the lives of these characters, which are so finely drawn, we can see all sorts of universals about hope and work and friendship and belonging. Those are grand themes. Edwards is phenomenal at teasing them out. There's a tendency to read Native fiction and nonfiction ethnographically, which is to say, these are stories and narratives that teach us something about Native life. I don't like reading anything that way. I don't read Dickens to learn about 19th century London. America has always defined itself in contest with and in relation to Native people. From the moment the Boston colonists dressed up as Mohawk Indians and dumped tea in Boston Harbor, America has been relating to Native people. If you want to know something about this country, if you want to know something about yourself, it's only through imagining and immersing ourselves in the experiences of others that we can actually check in on our own self-regard, individually and as a country. I want to see the best books represented. I want to see more books in fiction and nonfiction that get beyond the standardized sort of sad iconography with which we are all too familiar. I want to see more Native brilliance. There's a lot of it, and I want to get even more of it out there.